broadcasting.
Blog Talk USA. Are you tired of waiting for change? Tune into Blog Talk USA. Let your voice be heard on Blog Talk USA.
1012, and it gives me 1,250 feet. Texas again.
TWA announced the arrival of their flight from Los Angeles and Chicago.
And welcome everybody to this Friday, July 29th, 2016 edition of the TNZ Talk Show. TNZ Talk, happy to be with you this morning. Obviously, I am Tony Trupiano, the T in TNZ. He is Richard Zombeck, and that would be the French way. It's Zombeck, Richard Zombeck. The Z of TNZ Talk, and it's a little Friday morning debates last night. Lots of. Ooh. You okay?
I was feigning excitement.
Oh, okay. Feigning. I'm going to add that to my kerfuffle. Kerfuffle. Which I used last night with my 8-year-old niece, and I'm not so sure it went over so well with her, but that's all right. She'll get over it. I am.
I was just going to say, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually already over it. Although the dog's mad at me, Z, because I ran out of dog snacks.
Oh no!
And we have, a routine. And he now does not know what to do with himself because I'm not going out just to buy dog snacks today. And he's just going to have to learn to get over it. Not that I don't love him, I do. Not that I don't take care of him, I absolutely do. But I'm not going out of my way just to get the dog snacks for him. And I'm hoping that he is going to be understanding. No guarantees, but...
with your little puppy there, Tony, and I'm trying to decide whether it's delightful or disturbing.
It's delightful, and I consciously make that choice, and I will force that opinion on everybody. No, it's not disturbing yet. It's although it does sometimes cross a line with regard to more in the warmer months with how often he is hanging with me. In the colder months, it's a little easier to leave him behind. But in the warmer months, I, take him with me. But anyway, we don't need to slide into that. Let me remind people, if they want to join us throughout the program today, they're always welcome to do that. 347-855-8118. That's 347-855-8118 on Blog Talk USA Radio. And so if you do want to comment on something that we are going to be talking about today, or if you have something else on your mind, you're always welcome to ring in. On top of the debate, Richard Zombeck, we're actually going to talk a little bit about Chuck Hagel and Robert Gate talking about the 2016 presidential cycle and some of their insights. Obviously, we're going to talk about the debate in detail, winners, losers. I thought the punditry following the debates was kind of interesting, but we'll get into that in greater detail in a little while. But, you know, I got to tell you, it's we're, 7 now Republican debates into this. I think there have been 5 Democratic debates. And the bottom line is the Democrats say they want more. The Republicans don't really say anything. They're just doing it or not showing up for whatever reason. Boycotting. Now, do you believe, again, now knowing what we know, now knowing that we've got some of the ratings in, I don't have exact numbers as of yet, but do you believe Donald Trump did the right thing? Could he have hurt himself yesterday, Z?
Well, you're asking me to defend Donald Trump, Tony. And I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. But, well, I don't think there's much that... Donald Trump stood on a stage in Sioux City, Iowa, and said, I could stand in the middle of New York and shoot someone, and I wouldn't lose any voters. And I think he's right. I don't think he hurt himself. And in fact, you know, we were talking about this yesterday, and what we were talking about was that this was an opportunity for the rest of the Republican Party to pile on Cruz. And Cruz came away from that. He's the front runner on the stage that night. It was the Trumpless debate, is what I'm calling it. And Cruz had a less than stellar appearance, according to everything I've seen. Even some of the polling immediately after and this morning, people were saying that he seemed a little contrived, that he seemed kind of plastic, that he didn't seem as genuine. He tried the same strategy he tried in a previous debate of calling out the moderators, and he failed. And then he and I'll use the word again, he feigned a small tantrum that if he wasn't treated fairly, he was going to walk off the stage, obviously making fun of Donald Trump, which was going on a lot. There was a lot of chest thumping about Donald Trump. And when Jeb Bush was talking, I looked at my wife and I said, yeah, hold me back, I'll get him, I'll moito him. You know, and you know there was a lot of strong talk when Trump wasn't there, so it was still about Trump. Every other network carried Trump. It was like watching. They filmed his plane landing in Iowa, and it was. I mean, the Pope has his plane filmed when he lands, and that was what was on TV. Was his 757 landing, and that's what the rest of the network was covering while the debates were going on.
Yeah, you know, and it's I don't know. It's the level of whatever the media wants it to be. You know, they want it to look important or sound important. They want it to, I don't know. I guess in their own way, especially when it comes to Fox and really the other cable networks as well. They knew that at some point they were going to get something out of this, whether Trump performed in the debate or not, and they did. I mean, the bottom line is they did. Donald Trump did raise $5 million for veterans groups. Some of them were, as you're well aware, already out long before the little Donald Trump telethon went on last night, that they didn't want his money and weren't going to take it, and that's all well and good. I don't know if you saw the piece on the Wounded Warrior projects over the last couple of days, that they're spending an exponential amount of the $312+ million they annually bring in on rather lavish travel and other expenses, which of course...
About 40% isn't going to the vets.
Right.
So that's a pretty significant amount. I do want to read you a couple things. Immediately after Trump had announced that he was going to boycott the debate and put on a fundraiser for the veterans, oddly enough, he had a guy on stage named John Wayne, who was a veteran. It got kind of dark, but Paul Rieckhoff, who you know, and has been on your show a couple times, I guess, right? The founder of the Iraq-Afghanistan Veterans of America tweeted, if offered, IAVA will decline donations from Trump's event. We need strong policies from candidates not to be used for political stunts. And just one more is FwdRad.io posted on their website, and I'm quoting here. This is actually really good. Let me put this in language Donald Trump understands. You're a loser. You're a third-rate politician who clearly doesn't understand issues and is so scared of Megyn Kelly exposing it that you're looking to use veterans to protect you from facing her questions. Your so-called veterans plan on your website is a joke and refers to the agency as the Veterans Administration, even though it has been called the Department of Veterans Affairs for almost 30 years. It's pathetic. And that was from votevets.org, another organization that refused donations from Trump. Now, both of them have gotten a little bit of backlash from that. Someone tweeted to Rykoff that that's ridiculous. As a 26-year retired military veteran, I would think that all donations would be helpful. And Rykoff responded appropriately. If people want to support veterans, their money doesn't need to be funneled through a political campaign, and you can donate directly to us. So that was the response on Trump's sideshow kerfuffle.
Well, I think at some level, I don't know. Donald Trump's just, again, it's something I said yesterday. You either embrace him or you don't. There's really no gray area with him, and there isn't. And let that be what it is. There was the big, as Megyn Kelly said, the elephant not in the room last night. People keep on characterizing this, as did Ted Cruz, that at some level Donald Trump couldn't handle her or handle her questions. And I'm not buying that at all. I'm in the minority, but I don't buy it at all.
Well, and I don't. I'm a little uncomfortable with a news organization getting into a pissing contest with a major candidate. I don't think that they have any business doing what they're doing, and I think Roger Ailes made a very big mistake with his press release when Trump announced that he was going to boycott the debate or not show up, and basically goading him. And then apparently there were multiple phone calls and conversations between he and the station and Ivanka and the station, quote unquote, begging him to come on, and then his announcement at the event for the veterans. He said, I don't really want to be here, but we promised to do this, which was kind of weird, to kind of take it that way. If you're going to do this and you're going to commit, then you commit and you say, hey, you know what? There's no place I'd rather be.
Oh, that is true. And again, it's over. It's behind us. Iowa's in a handful of days. We'll see if it helps him or hurts him. All I know is that it looked at one point like Ted Cruz was really going to run away with Iowa. That is not a assumption that we can continue to make or embrace. And at the end of the day, it's obvious to me that although this debate was certainly, and I don't want to use the word strong in a he-man, God, it was great kind of way, but in its own way, it was, I guess, what people expected it to be, at least what I expected it to be. There were no surprises. Actually, the only surprise was there was no one that, to me, came out in a big way, came out in a way where I went, wow, now that was a great exchange. And maybe that was just me at that point, but I really didn't see that. BBC, who I happen to enjoy, did a little story after the debate, and this is what they had to share with the world. Sure they did, Tony. No,
he was in the same town as them, but 2 miles up the road, refusing to back down in his argument with Fox News. Instead, he boasted about having raised millions of dollars from rich friends for military veterans, and seemed unworried about turning his back on the big stage debate.
Is it, for me personally, a good thing, a bad thing? Will I get more votes? Will I get less votes? Nobody knows. Who the hell knows? But it's for our vets, and you're going to like it because we raised over $5 million in one day. Over $5 million.
Let's address the elephant not in the room tonight.
Megyn Kelly, the presenter at the heart of the row, putting the absent Donald Trump center stage in her first question in this Fox News debate.
I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
I kind of miss Donald Trump. He was a little teddy bear to me.
It wasn't all about Donald Trump. They went back and forth on climate change, the fight against the so-called Islamic State, and immigration. But among the Trump faithful, the attacks on their man for walking away seemed to do him little harm.
You know, the other candidates at the other debate, I keep hearing the same old record, time and time and time again. It's when you listen to Mr. Trump, he speaks from his heart. It's never the same. It's not written out. It's not on any teleprompter. The man loves America.
No one yet knows whether Donald Trump's tactic will help him or hurt him. But what he has proved once again is that he has an uncanny ability to disrupt the normal political order of things. Gary O'Donoghue, BBC News in Des Moines, Iowa.
You know, and somebody actually suggested that last night's debate might have been what we would have expected without Donald Trump. And I profoundly disagree with that. I think that they tried to keep the spirit of Donald Trump in the room for a variety of reasons. I think it gives other candidates more energy and insistence and power, to be honest with you. I just can't imagine the onerous system it is to having to lug that commitment or equipment all the way around wherever this guy's going or wherever they're all going. But I guess that's just part and parcel of what they do. If you've ever talked to a pool reporter on a campaign, most of them are pretty damn happy when it's over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. And I think, you know, part of and you know, tell me what you think about this. I mean, when it really got down to the debate, it's kind of what I heard was war. We'll kick ISIS's ass. We have to kill terrorists. We need more money to buy military stuff. There is no money. All the Democrats are at fault. And I read the Bible. I mean, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all.
Yeah. And so, you know, and the fact that they still allowed Trump in the room, it's more of this. So here's the thing. Trump has this kind of schoolyard bully kind of attitude. And when he's not there, the rest of them are, yeah, if he wasn't here, if he was here right now, I'd beat the crap out of him. If he was here right now, I'd punch him. I mean, I don't like Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a jerk. He's a big poopy head. And I'd murder. I'd moita him. Hold me back. I'm gonna go after him right now. And you know, and at one point, Jeb was going on and on about this, and he stopped for a little bit. And I looked at my wife and I go, oh, "What did he just think that Donald Trump's behind me? Right? He's behind me right now, right?" I mean, he had this. Jeb is very, very. What's fascinating, Tony Trupiano. What's fascinating is that they are they're intimidated by Trump, and I am fundamentally uncomfortable with a presidential candidate who is visibly intimidated by someone like Trump, and to see them have a little bit of freedom because he's not in the room was kind of disturbing. You know, I mean, Jeb was really kind of Jeb had a good performance yesterday. He was witty. He was relatively charming. He didn't feel like he was being watched. He told his mommy that he loved him, that he and that he respected his dad, and that he was proud of his brother, and and talked almost like a wimp, but a wimp who's a normal human being rather than a cowing little pansy that he is when Trump is on the stage. So that was not only I was relatively pleased to watch that we actually had some people on the GOP that were comfortable, but that raises the question of, there are worse people in the world than Donald Trump. And if you can't handle Donald Trump, how are you going to handle anyone else? And that they actually cower at the thought of him and are careful as to what they say because he might tweet something is really kind of it's a little disconcerting that that's even an issue.
Gotcha. Well, and there was some discussion about that yesterday. You were speaking of you were speaking of Jeb Bush, and these were some of his comments during the debate yesterday.
An establishment because my dad, the greatest man alive, was president of the United States, and my brother, who I adore as well, is a fantastic brother, was president. Fine, I'll take it. And I guess I'm part of the establishment because Barbara Bush is my mom. I'll take that too. But this election is not about our pedigree. This is an election about people that are really hurting, and we need a leader that will fix things and have a proven record to do it. And we need someone who will take on Hillary Clinton in November, someone who has a proven record, who's been tested, who's totally transparent. I released 34 years of tax returns and 300,000 emails in my government record. To get the information from Hillary Clinton, you need to get a subpoena from the FBI.
Thank you, Governor.
So there, Z.
Yeah, so there. I don't know if do we live in a world where I love my mommy and my mommy loves me is a pre-qualification for becoming president?
Well, the only thing that was missing was eating a piece of Wonder Bread to make it look like a smile and then attaching it to your face. I don't mean to be rude, but, I'm the wholesome guy. I know what I'm doing. Yes, I'm the establishment guy. There's nothing wrong with being the establishment guy, Richard Zombeck. Nothing wrong with that at all. The bottom line is, we'll get to some other audio here in just a moment, but did we learn anything coming out of that debate? And I think the definitive answer is no for me. And beyond that, it was, frankly, it was anticlimactic.
Yeah, I wasn't. It's hard. It's hard to be impressed when their whole thing is destroying what we have here. I mean, both Huckabee and Santorum were part of the little kids' table debate, and they showed up at the Trump rally. Huckabee was interviewed afterwards, and he said, well, it was over at 8 o'clock and I had nothing to do, so I went over to support the veterans. And I want to get to something about that in a minute, but what Huckabee said when he was talking to MSNBC last night, he said, people are tired of this. Republicans get elected and people get nothing. Democrats get elected and people get nothing. And really, 28 million people without health care and affordable health care and people elected Democrats and got nothing. And the jobs report was out last month. They were record numbers. The economy is improving, maybe not for the middle class, but by all accounts, everyone's saying how much the economy is improving. And if they want to go by real numbers, then they have to discuss those. So for him to say that was fair. I mean, it's regular talking points, but whatever. Going to that, Santorum and Huckabee had nothing better to do, so they showed up at Trump's event. Which kind of leads to another discussion. Is Fiorina, after Trump announced that he was doing this, said that she was donating money to veterans, And then Ted Cruz said that he would donate $1.5 million to veterans if Donald Trump debated him, quote unquote, mano a mano. And here's what I'd rather hear campaigns say is, hey, you know what? Donald Trump can do what he wants. I donated $1.5 million or $3 million or $2 million or $50 last month, before Donald Trump ever made this announcement. Why does it take the head of the clown car to do something for veterans, for the rest of the candidates to finally actually do something for American people, and American people who have literally lost, limbs and life and limbs to protect and defend this country in wars that they manifested.
All right, let's listen to a little exchange between Ted Cruz and Chris Wallace.
Actually, I don't think your name was mentioned. I think the vote, no, sir.
Chris, your question said you've attacked.
I think the question was about, it's not my question that you get a chance to respond to. It's his answer. You don't get 30 seconds to respond to me.
Your question was you have disagreed.
You don't get 30 seconds to respond to me. I'd like to go on, sir. I know you like to argue about the rules, but we're going to conduct the debate. Governor Bush, here's...
All right. Ted Cruz took some crap for that. Again, was he bullying? Was he trying to be Trump-like? And that's really the problem is going to be. Anytime you're going to disagree with anybody on the panel, they're going to say, well, there he goes, trying to be Trump-like. Maybe he was just being Ted Cruz-like, and we know nobody likes Ted Cruz.
Well, and he got booed. I mean, they booed him when he was on the stage when he went after Chris Wallace. And so he tried the same strategy of reiterating all of the questions and really ended up coming across as a bit of a whiner. That, everyone's beating up on me. You're asking everyone to attack me. Wah, 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 wah. And, he already tried that. He tried that strategy in a previous debate, and it worked well. And it was a mistake to try it again. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Well, it didn't sound like that's all there is to it, though, did it?
Go on.
Go on. No, we'll leave it there. It just didn't sound like that's all there was to it. A little more audio from last night's debate, and really there is there's a little bit of here and there, a little Rand Paul, little Ben Carson, but really much ado about nothing.
We'll say this, gosh, if you guys ask one more mean question, I may have to leave the stage. Chris, the most important determination any voter is going to make in this election is who's best prepared to be commander-in-chief. Who has the experience, who has the knowledge, who has the judgment, who has the clarity of vision and strength of resolve to keep this country safe. That is what this debate is all about. And I would suggest let's stay focused on those issues rather than just attacks directed at each other.
I think the questions were about issues, but Senator Rubio,
I was mentioned
what would you like to say?
Yes, as well by Senator Cruz. First of all, I'd like to respond.
Do I go? Let me go first, and then you can please recognize Rand after. But first of all,
thank you, Marco.
All right, and we had a little problems with this audio. This website kept on loading and reloading, and so at some point I just gave up on it. Let me play, before we go on, I want to play a little Ben Carson, and then we'll talk in further detail.
Well, I will gladly confess that I'm the only one on this stage with no political title. You're not going to hear a lot of polished political speech from me, but you will hear the truth. And I don't think you have to be a politician to tell the truth. In fact, sometimes it's not that way around.
Well, that is true, Z. But at the same time, I think that, as we'll find out when we listen to some of this audio from Chuck Hagel and Robert Gates, that just running something, even something as important as doing surgery on somebody's brain, doesn't necessarily give you the skill set to serve as president of the United States of America.
Well, I'm waking up from a very short nap because every time Ben Carson talks, it has that effect on me. But
let's talk about that real quick. What hell happened to this guy? I mean, seriously, what happened to him? I mean, he's no different today than he was when he was popular. And so what happened?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, judging from the debate yesterday, he got a very quick lesson in geography because they asked him a question about Estonia and Russia, and his commentary on that was basically something that would take us back to the Cold War, and having a military presence to threaten Russia, in the Eastern Circle there. So, I don't know. I mean, the guy is, I don't know. He's kind of a squish, Tony.
A squish?
A squish.
All right. See, I learned so much. Kerfuffle, squish. And the beat goes on, and the beat goes on. Yeah, he is kind of a squish. Well, the debates are behind us. The undercard was, again, much ado about nothing. Let me ask you this question. I was asked this morning on a couple other different television cable programs. Do you think the Santorums of the world, the Huckabees, the Fiorinas, the Carsons and others realize that there's not a snowball's chance in hell that they could win right now? I wonder about that. I wonder if their egos are so huge that they actually think that in some alternate universe that they have a possibility of becoming the front runner or winning. I don't know what else they're hanging around for except to collect donations. And there was something about Ben Carson's donations that was questionable. That it was really kind of just a shell for consultant fees and making a bunch of consultants wealthy and political commentators and kind of ancillary events around campaigns that people were really getting rich off of all this, and that it was really kind of for nothing. It would kind of like, John Oliver, who's on HBO now, he used to be on Jon Stewart's show, started a church, and I think also started a PAC, and I know Colbert started a PAC, and both of them were amazed at the amount of unsolicited donations and the sheer amount of money that was coming in that they couldn't even believe it. So, I mean, you can only imagine with the capitalizing on a national stage, the amount of money that you could get in just because, a couple million people think you're great. I guess I just don't understand the concept because a couple billion people don't think I'm great. But I'm okay. I'll get over it. Really, I will. Oh, my. I wanted to play this from yesterday. Let me just play this, and I want to get your reaction to it.
I'm running because we have to take our country back. We have an interesting question about a news item that just came up over the last 24 hours. I'm sure you've seen it. It's out of Texas. It was the news that a grand jury has indicted the filmmakers of those controversial Planned Parenthood videos, not Planned Parenthood. And quite a few of our viewers, including James, wants to know what your reaction is to that news and whether or not it changes your opinion, your strong opinion, on the videos and what you say they portray.
Well, it doesn't change the facts. Look, Hillary Clinton hasn't been indicted either. So what does that say about our justice system? But here's what I know, and here's what Americans know as well. Planned Parenthood engages in late-term abortion, partial birth abortion. They alter abortion techniques in order to save and harvest body parts. The reason we know that, never mind the videos, Planned Parenthood itself has come out and said that they're no longer going to accept compensation for doing these things. What we also know is the vast majority of Americans find these practices abhorrent. And what we also know is that it isn't fair to have taxpayers funding what is essentially a political operation. Planned Parenthood is a political operation. They funnel millions of political dollars into pro-abortion candidates year after year after year. Why should taxpayers fund that? So, my opinion hasn't changed, the facts haven't changed, and there will not be a dime for Planned Parenthood funding in a President Fiorina budget, but there will be plenty of funding for women's health.
Well, and there won't be a President Fiorina budget because there won't be a President Fiorina. I realized after we were playing that, we played it yesterday, but I think it was worth repeating, Z. Again, fundamentally, she gets the facts entirely wrong. Going back to what I said yesterday, everybody has a right to an opinion. Not everybody has a right to their own facts, and she's really been quite a cherry picker on so many issues that, she puts herself out on a limb. The funny thing is that she brings a saw and starts sawing that limb off at the base while she's sitting on the other side. I don't think she's going to either fall or hang herself, one or the other.
Well, it's not even that she cherry picks her facts. It's she's not even using facts. It's not cherry picking information. She is basing her argument on videos that have been proven to be false. They have been, without a doubt, proven to be false. And not only that, but a recent court case. The people who created the videos are being indicted for fraud. So, and after that, she has the audacity to still come on national TV and go, well, no, but they are collecting body parts. Planned Parenthood is murdering children, and I don't even know. This doesn't even go to doubling down anymore. This is someone who is, quite frankly, completely delusional and impervious to facts and reality. Did I lose you, Tony?
No, I'm here.
Oh.
I'm here. I'm here. See, it seems to me, and I think it's clear at some level, and we're going to switch gears here for a moment and take a look at some of the, if you will, outsiders look at what's happening, and I want to try to get a little of the Flint stuff in from the other day. But as we take a look at some of the stuff that's been going on, Ted Cruz. Before we get into Chuck Hagel and Robert Gates, Ted Cruz decided to call Donald Trump out in a one-on-one. This is what it sounded like.
Apparently, Mr. Trump considers Megyn Kelly very, very scary. And Donald is a fragile soul. I mean, she might ask a mean question, and who knows what could happen. I mean, his hair could stand on end. I've got to say, it is an amazing statement for a presidential candidate to say, I'm not willing to show up to the debates. What does it say when Donald tells the men and women of Iowa, my time is more important than your time? He and I are the leading candidates in this state right now, so how about the two of us in a one-on-one debate, mano-a-mano?
All right, there's Ted Cruz calling him out. I don't think it's going to work. They're not going to do the mano-a-mano debate. There's that old philosophy, Z, that when you're the front runner, you don't benefit from debates. And I believe that to a degree. I don't think Donald Trump needs to debate. I think that he needs to do exactly what he did. He got just as much, if not more, attention by not being there than by being there. The one thing he didn't do yesterday, he didn't make a gaffe.
Well, I mean, I find the invitation a little odd, right? I mean, in the same sentence, he's saying that he's never heard of a candidate not showing up for a debate, and then says just the two of us should debate. I mean, who the hell is he? There are 6 other people there, right? Now, Ted Cruz isn't well-liked. I don't see how this is going to get him more well-liked by the other 6 candidates who he's essentially snubbing and saying, these guys aren't worth anything. It's just the 2 of us now.
Yeah, he's a real piece of work. All right, we'll move on. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Hagel.
Ballot will join me now is another former Obama Secretary of Defense and also a former Republican senator from Nebraska, Chuck Hagel. Senator.
Thank you, Chuck.
Secretary. What is the proper? Do you know what the honorary? Which
Chuck
one I'm
2, maybe. I wouldn't dare say Chuck 1, but not in your presence.
Fair enough. Let me ask this question, sort of the question raised by, what should the voters be looking for in the next commander-in-chief? What do you wish the voters of Iowa were looking for in the next commander-in-chief? Forget what they're doing right now, but what do you wish?
I've always thought there are 3 indispensable requisites for high office. I think it applies for your business or any business. Character, courage, and particularly judgment. Experience is important. I agree. I don't minimize it. In the end, it's always about judgment. When you sit in that Oval Office or any office of responsibility, you have to make some tough calls, tough choices, and you're not going to be right on all of them. But you've got to have the assimilation of enough intellect, facts, experience helps all the others to come to a judgment that makes sense. But it has to be fundamentally comes from character and courage. Those are the 3 things I think you'd look for.
Do you still consider yourself a Republican?
What I considered a Republican. The party today is a conglomeration, really, of tribes. I'm from the heartland of a paralyzed government. The Congress doesn't govern. Our candidates don't talk about governing, whether you're running for the Senate.
Well, because it's unpopular. If you talk about it, it becomes they don't want to hear, it's process. Don't talk about Congress. Don't talk about politics. The people don't want to hear that.
It's more fun to have fistfights and gong shows that pass off as debates. But that's why we're in some trouble in this country today. That's why when I just got back from Davos, first question I got from everybody, what the hell's happening in your country in the political process? And when you've got the rest of the world peering in, looking at this model democracy that we like to hold up to not only to ourselves but the rest of the world, that's pretty debilitating. And that's why we have the environment, in my opinion, we have today in this country. People have lost confidence in the institutions, in government. One way is you don't campaign on dividing America. First campaign I've seen in a long time where candidates are not talking about uniting America. Here's how we can work together. This is how we can listen to each other and bring this country together. We'll have differences, but we do have to govern. We do have to make things work. We do have to do the things that are important and right for our country. Even though you've got these wild, glancing blow, glib commentaries over here, I'm going to build a wall, I'm going to carpet bomb the Middle East, and so on. The media has some responsibility here too, Chuck. The media needs to hold them accountable. I watched the town hall for the Democrats a couple of days ago. Why don't we have the so-called smart moderators, and I know I'm getting close to your territory here.
I'll take it. We'll take all the critique.
Why don't we ask the regular people in the audience to ask the questions that are relevant to them, because that's relevant to this country. Why don't you give each candidate 2 to 3 minutes to explain his or her policy on what they would do about Syria, about Russia, ISIS, and no interruptions, no excuses, well, he said this. What are you going to do, Mr. Candidate? I think the media loves the confrontation and the battle. I know it's ratings. I get the reality of it, but I think the media doesn't get off with some responsibility here.
And I couldn't agree more. Let's just quickly listen to little Robert Gates, very short audio. We'll come back and talk.
I think it's the question of who can actually lead the country, and equally, who can run the government. Government is different, and especially the federal government is different in many ways than running a business or anything else. And people who have never run a governmental organization often have no idea how complicated it is and how difficult. For example, if you're a CEO, you don't have 535 members on your board of directors.
That was Robert Gates.
And that was Robert Gates. Your overall thoughts, on both of their observations, because when I take a look at candidates on the GOP side, I don't know that he really described anybody that's running.
Well, no, not. Yeah, I was confused by your comments because he kind of didn't describe anyone that's running, right? And I mean, some of the other stuff that they said during this too. I thought what Hagel's comments were interesting in that there were two interesting comments in that. One, that he called out the media while being on the media, and said, you guys are responsible for this too. You're not following up. You're not asking questions. You're not calling them out on their ridiculous comments. And what I also found interesting was when Chuck Todd asked Hagel whether or not he considered himself a Republican, Hagel kind of cringed. And that to me is the more interesting portion of all of that. There was a Gates interview too with Robert Gates where they asked him, and this is a guy that worked for Richard Nixon as CIA director and is one of the only security directors to stay on through an administration into another administration and continue to work for Obama. And he asked about the president, the people that were running on the Republican side, and his comment was, "Well, I live about 50 miles from Canada." Right? And he also condemned the media for not challenging the candidates from both parties on claims that he believes, quote, are unaffordable, illegal, or unconstitutional. And he also said this, and I'm quoting. I've got an article up on Liberals Unite that I put up yesterday. And what Gates says is the level of dialogue on national security issues would embarrass a middle schooler. People are out there making threats and promises that are totally unrealistic, totally unattainable. Either they really believe what they're saying or they're cynical and opportunistic. And in a way, you hope it's the latter because, God forbid, they actually believe some of the things that they're saying. And this is from a Secretary of Defense. And we just heard, what Chuck Hagel had to say. Both of them Republicans, both of them appearing on national television and saying what's going on is really scary. What they're talking about is terrifying and essentially illegal. Hagel's comment of, even though you've got these wild glancing blows and glib commentaries about building walls or carpet bombing, and then again saying that the media also has some responsibility to this. I mean, why isn't anyone saying, when Ted Cruz gets on, we're going to carpet bomb the Middle East? Why aren't journalists saying that you do understand that that's completely illegal? You do understand that the rest of the world would look at us basically terrorists. So, both the conversations with the interviews with Robert Gates and the interview with Chuck Hagel were incredibly interesting. And actually, I'll post the interview on our website in its entirety when I post the show notes for today. So anyone that's downloading the podcast can find it at our website at tnztalk.com. I don't know, Tony. I mean, watching these two guys who are knowledgeable, former Republicans, both having cringeworthy moments when asked if they identify with the current party, really tells me that if not the GOP, the rest of the country itself could be in a lot of trouble. Anything you'd like to add? Okay, well, either you lost me or we lost Tony. So I'm not really sure what just happened here.
And the interstate highway system, man on the moon, right? The expectation of clean drinking.
All right, and we are back, and we also should have Richard Zombeck back. Are you there, Z? Richard Zombeck, are you there? Apparently, he still cannot hear. Yep, he can hear us. There we go.
Yep, there we go. Technology.
Right. Yes, technology. I was about to play, and I would still like to do that. A little of the audio that we grabbed from Wednesday night's program on Flint, and Rachel Maddow's incredible job of doing the town hall meeting there. And so, unfortunately, that's how I found out we were having a problem, was because, frankly, I couldn't play that audio.
The way this really happened is the community made a decision. The city and the county all wanted to switch away from Detroit's water system. Actually, the city council of Flint voted, in fact, to move away from DWSD as a water source. That was ratified then by the emergency manager. It was a 7-1 vote of the city council to leave the Detroit water system.
Government failed you, federal, state, and local leaders, by breaking the trust you placed in us.
Brief fact check. It is true that government failed the city of Flint, Michigan, but local leaders here in Flint were not actually at fault, because local leaders were replaced in Flint by emergency managers who ran the city on their own say-so and who reported only to the governor and not to the voters of this city. A state-appointed emergency manager signed the order to get ready for drinking water from Flint River. A state-appointed emergency manager presided over the switch. That is how this happened. Is fixing that part of fixing this crisis? Yeah. Back with us now, Flint Mayor Karen Weaver. She's joined by Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan and the Reverend Charles Williams, who's president of the National Action Network of Michigan. Thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Mayor Weaver, let me start with you. It is clear to me that getting rid of the democratic process in Flint is part of how this happened. When I look at people from Flint holding jugs of dirty water and saying, this is terrible, we got to reverse this, and having nobody able to hear those complaints who could do anything about it, I realize, okay, there's the breakdown. If democracy is restored in Flint, is that going to help solve this problem?
Democracy needs to be restored in Flint. That's what's happened. That's how we got here. We didn't have a voice. It was taken. And when you're elected, even under emergency manager, when you're elected, you are supposed to speak up and speak out on behalf of the people that got you. That didn't happen in our case. It didn't happen in our case. And we need democracy. That's how we are heard as a community. That's how we're heard as a voice. And it wasn't in place for the citizens of Flint.
Reverend Williams, you've been such an activist, along with a lot of other people in Michigan, but you've been one of the activists who's really highlighted the dangers of the emergency manager law. Do you think the Flint crisis will change the emergency manager law and its politics and its viability here?
Well, you know, I was thinking about what I was going to say on the way here, and I felt like Marshawn Lynch. All I got to say is Governor Snyder got to go. $1.2 billion of surplus money is sitting right in Lansing right now because Governor Snyder cut welfare, because Governor Snyder cut pensioners, because Governor Snyder gave $2 billion to his fat cat folks in Michigan, and you can't find $1.2 billion to make sure that pipes are going in the ground right now. The governor needs to dig those pipes immediately.
Senator Stabenow, the federal government has stepped up in a lot of ways. Yeah. Obviously, there were problems in terms of the EPA's response. The federal government was not blameless here. Yeah. But since the crisis has come to light, the federal government has been devoting a lot of resources to this. That's, on its face, good. Is it also letting the state of Michigan off the hook?
Well, first thing I would say, the most important thing here is fixing things for the people of Flint. We've got to make that number one. I do.
And we don't have time for the rest of that audio, although there's not much left. We're creeping up to the bottom of the hour. The whole conversation about lack of democracy, for those that aren't familiar, in Michigan they passed originally something called Public Act 4, which allowed for the governor to appoint what is called an emergency manager that could come in and usurp the democratic process and basically take over the city council and rearrange the entire city government without the voters' approval. The voters turned that down. The GOP-controlled legislature turned around literally a month after that and said, okay, well, we're going to go with Public Act 436, which was a much stricter version of the original emergency manager law. The problem was they also passed a little amendment that said that if they approached or if they attached an appropriations to any legislation, it was referendum proof, which means the voters couldn't come after it. As little as $1. As little as $1. So basically saying F you to democracy in Michigan.
Completely.
Yeah.
And it's hideous what's going on there. And actually, I had an article up with Michael Moore's interview, who was on Lawrence O'Donnell a couple days ago. He gives a very emotional. He was there to talk about his movie, his new movie, and he completely blew it off, and talked about what happened in Flint. I mean, and as you know, most people know, he's from Flint, but really he got choked up. And he had a lot to say about that. So it was an interesting interview. It was interesting to watch. And it of course it's a little too late. It's been what, a year or two that they've been fighting about this and trying to raise attention. And here we are. And it's finally getting attention. But to Michael Moore's point too, this is not just Flint, Michigan. This is going on across the country, and that there are parts of this country that are like third world countries.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we've run out of time. We're just going to have to pick this back up on Monday. In the meantime, we're going to ask everybody to have a great weekend. Richard, we are running very, very late, so we're just going to say goodbye for today. I want to thank everybody. T&Z Talk, TANDZ Talk.com is where you're going to find everything, including our archives. We want to thank those that have been downloading the show. We see an increased number every week. That'll do it for us for today. Tony Trupiano, Richard Zombeck, our good friends at blogtalkusa.com. Have a great weekend, and as always, be well.